Did we go over? Time flies when you're having fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. Welcome to Empire State of Grind, a podcast about the people building the next wave of tech startups in and out of New York City. Please be advised that the hosts of this podcast are practicing lawyers or other professionals in the tech industry, and that some of the guest employers on this podcast may be clients of the hosts. The information and content provided during this podcast are for informational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or financial advice, or as the positions or stances of the employers of any of the individuals.
Thanks for tuning in. On today's episode, I am joined by two absolute powerhouses of event marketing. Our guest, Carolina Barberri, is the head of events and field marketing at Cortex.io, an internal developer portal built to accelerate the path to engineering excellence. We are also joined by a new co-host, Kim Buhay, Director of Field Marketing Americas at Datadog, the company where we all met. We will learn about the important role that events play in accelerating growth and building employee relationships, as well as discuss how some of our favorite events were planned and executed. We will also learn about how both Carolina and Kim ended up in events and tech and what each loves most about NYC. Spoiler alert, the three of us have seen and supported each other through various aspects of personal and professional growth, so there's a lot of laughter, love, and respect in this conversation. Let's dive in.
All right, so today's actually a really exciting and fun episode for me. I'm here with two of my favorite people and two of my first friends from Datadog. So we have Carolina Barberri. You are now the head of events and field marketing at Cortex. And Kim Buhay, who is the director of field marketing of the Americas at Datadog.
Yeah,
so
still there, still going strong.
You're still in the nest, keeping us all posted.
Yeah.
And tell us, I guess maybe I am going to take this off the path a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Cortex and kind of your role there.
Yeah, so Cortex, the way I like to think of it is for many years, sales leaders have had their CRM like Salesforce for helping manage their revenue, their customer base, and understand how they're tracking towards their goals. Similarly, marketing teams have had tools like Marketo to see their marketing metrics. But for a very long time, engineering leaders haven't had a way to track the quality of their software, who owns different components of their software, and help drive initiatives. So Cortex, our mission is really to help engineering leaders on their pursuit of engineering excellence, which I think is really special.
No, it's cool. It's actually something relatable because that's legal tech is basically trying to solve the same problem of what is going on with all the stuff I'm working on. Mm-hmm. It's something we constantly were trying to figure out at Datadog.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about observability, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's true. I mean, my first reaction was let's hire someone else to do that because I wasn't interested, but 100%. Definitely a problem. Is there like a term for that industry?
Yeah, so the category that we're in is internal developer portals.
Okay.
It's pretty new, actually. So internal developer portals probably started emerging in like 2019.
Okay.
Started off with an open source project that really blew up. And then Cortex was founded shortly thereafter with a few competitors now. Yeah.
All right, cool. So one thing I had told you guys I kind of want to talk about, I think the audience would be interested because I know for me it's different. I was hands-on in a company, so I kind of honestly have huge respect for what you guys do. But why don't you explain how do events play into a technology company, right? Because they don't seem to have, the importance that I think they do.
Oh, I mean, everybody thinks we're just the party planning committee, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you definitely get those props too from the rest of us, but
and we do plan great parties.
We do,
but
hell yeah.
That's probably the least important and impactful thing I think that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just for some background, we all met, you guys kind of had a similar role on the events team, right? Mm-hmm. So we all started, 2016?
2016.
When did you say you joined?
When we were
2016,
babies.
yeah.
Okay, so I think you guys were earlier in the year, I was later in the year. So what, at these smaller companies, is the role of managing events?
You want to take that one?
Yes. Just because I'm at a small company now.
Yeah, exactly.
But caveat, Kim and I did start at Datadog when it was 100 or so
100 employees.
Mm-hmm. So you definitely have this experience also. But at my organization at least, so Cortex is pretty small. We have 100 employees. The marketing team itself is pretty small. We have the basics, so like marketing operations, demand gen, product marketing, of course, is also really important. And events really works together with all those teams to ensure that we are, one, driving leads for the company, driving pipeline, and also helping to accelerate that pipeline and ultimately close business for our sales team.
So dumb it down for me. Like what is an event? Like when you're in charge of events, what is that?
Yeah, so a few, I guess, like different flavors of events that we do. I would start with the fun ones. So because we're a small company, you know, we wear many hats. We help with planning. Sorry, we don't help. We actually plan our company offsites. These are twice a year. We bring in all the employees from the company for a few days of learning, collaborating, fun activities, bonding, things like that. But on a more marketing focused kind of perspective, we do a few different things. So we sponsor third-party trade shows, which tend to be extremely popular with this developer kind of like audience. Events like AWS reInvent, KubeCon, SRECon, Google Cloud Next, you name it. We usually have a presence there.
These are industry events. So when you say sponsor, you have a booth there for attendees that can see what you're up to?
Exactly.
Well, I think one of the really attractive parts about going to these conferences is you find the developers where they already are, right?
Exactly.
People in this space are always about learning. And they go to these conferences to gain knowledge. They go to these conferences to meet other SREs, other developers, other people who are doing similar projects, have similar challenges. And what we do when we sponsor a third-party event like that is we bring solutions to those challenges. And we try and illustrate to the best of our abilities through the booth, through any activities that we have off-site, how our challenge or how their challenges can be solved using our products.
Yeah, I remember it sounds so obvious now, but I remember learning about that at Datadog being like, oh, that's really smart. Like you go where the users are, not where necessarily the buyers are.
Exactly. And in some cases, there are buyers there.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared to talk to both audiences. But like Kim mentions, a lot of our presence is typically having a booth, having our
Is that
branding.
part of your role too? Like you talk to the booth attendees, or you're more
absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
interesting.
Kim and I,
That's true.
we're very hands-on.
We can run a mean demo.
Okay,
Yes.
cool.
Run a mean demo.
You guys will laugh at me. The first time I went to one of these, I went to Dash this year.
Oh,
Just to
What?
see
Wait,
what it's like.
really?
Yeah, I never went because honestly, at Datadog, I was too busy.
yeah.
And it's not helpful. I think it was always nice that people saw me as like cool and approachable, but you don't want to meet like the company's lawyer at the demo booth. Do you know what I mean? It's like the wrong vibe. So yeah, I never went.
Wow. How was it?
It was cool. It was a little eye-opening. Honestly, it was I think from doing all the contracts and whatnot, I just had this idea in my head that it was like more, I don't know, overwhelming, and it was actually just fun.
I love to hear that. That's the best compliment.
It is. But Carolina, you hit on something that I think is really important, or we talked about it a little bit. Being a part of event marketing within a technology company, especially something that is so high tech like Cortex, it necessitates more than just excellence in your time management and event planning skills. It necessitates a very deep product knowledge. Can you talk a little bit about how your role at Cortex is almost a blend of event marketing and product marketing?
100%. So totally agree. It all starts with evaluating which events you want to organize or sponsor. So understanding your ICP is really important. The size of companies that you're targeting, the different titles, the different technologies that are in their tech stack is also really helpful. So I know, for example, if my, prospective users are using Google Cloud, AWS, et cetera, I'm going to go to those conferences because it's very relevant for us, right?
That's interesting. And you're literally the one making that decision. No one's telling you. Mm-hmm. It's cool. I love that question. And it's funny because it made me think, like, I'm not surprised to hear that you guys are thinking that way, because that's literally what I did from my side is like, actually feel like I need to understand the business I'm in, how it operates a little bit, not from, right? We don't have technical background. So it's not like, show me the code that produces this. But it's like, conceptually, what are we selling? How does it work? Who would care about this? Because it empowers you to be better at your role, as, maybe as not, or what's the cliche as that sounds. But like, I've found that I still do that from the outside. Like, I have someone demo me the product at every client I have. Why? Because like, I always looked at it as like, between lawyers, I need to be the expert on our product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's very empowering.
Yeah.
Helps you do your job better, honestly.
It does. It also helps you like connect with the other side. So I actually had a experience recently that, the other lawyer, we're going back and forth before we meet, and it's really hard on my side. Are they editing this hard because they know a lot or they know nothing? Then you get on with them. You can talk the technical talk. We connected. This thing that seemed like this is not going well automatically is a little more like we're speaking the same language. And this is someone that does have a technical background.
Yeah, I think it's a superpower.
For sure.
And I don't think that everyone thinks this way.
No, that's why
not to brag, but it's a differentiator for sure.
I do think so.
Yeah.
And I do think it's truly a best practice that we learned very early on at Datadog. And
were you encouraged? That's, I guess, what I'm... Okay.
Yes.
Yes. We were encouraged mostly because anyone who worked at Datadog in the early days, and even people who work there now, they will tell you Datadog is a product-first company. I think Cortex is the same, is it not? Yeah. But everything stems from this obsession with the mission of what we're trying to do at Datadog. We're trying to break down silos between dev and ops. And because that mission really bleeds into everything that every department does, we're
really
pretty unified. I know. I've drank the Kool-Aid,
I feel like you're showering in it.
I drank the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. But going back to the point, our founders, very product focused. Our CMO, very product focused. And it bled into everything that our teams did. And whenever we looked at the schedule of events that was coming up, we thought very hard about what our product solved. Who are the people that have that problem? Where are they going? And then we made the strategy based on that.
Exactly. So it starts with, again, like understanding your ICP. Where are we going? Who are we speaking to? Working with product marketing or sales engineering or whatever resources you have to then understand, like, how do we bring this solution and all of our use cases in front of people? So that usually comes in the format of doing a demo.
That's cool.
So we do a little bit of discovery, like, what's your role? What is it that you're looking for? What pain is it that you're feeling? And then try to create a demo that helps them understand how Cortex can solve that.
Yeah, and I just had an interesting thought pop in my head. Like, how many events do you think you've attended
Oh my
in
God.
your career? No, I know. It's more than I would expect, I bet.
I think one year we did 300, just the four of us, which is 50 each.
It was 50.
Oh my God, it was like 50
I
to
went
60
back and
each.
And they're
counted.
all over the world. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 50 times, how long have you been doing this?
2016.
400 events.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, no, it's insane. So I'm saying, like, now you kind of know, I'm sure, like, the recurring events, like, in and out a little bit, right? So
Yes.
'cause I remember even being told, like, hey, if we get this deal done today, I can get this specific booth space or whatever that you knew was advantageous. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what, though? We've talked about third-party events quite a lot at this point, but I really want to hear about some of the first-party events you're doing. Tell us a little bit more about that.
yeah,
There's
and
lots of that.
Before you
Also-
get into it, I think it's cool. Like, that's how you connect with your coworkers. Like we were saying before, Carolina was like my first friend at Datadog. We met at a company party. And I say that because I didn't know anybody. And here was this nice person who was like hanging out with me when I might have left early otherwise, you know what I mean? And I'm
glad
pretty
you stayed.
outgoing. So that's saying
So
a lot.
outgoing. I'm so surprised to hear that.
I do appreciate what you said, Fisher, about just how these events serve so many different purposes,
Yeah,
right? Like
exactly.
it gives people an opportunity to make new friends. And that feels really special that we are behind the ones
I always
curating
thought
some of
you
this.
guys are kind of like someone else's first experience with like at least the brand.
Yes.
Like you're saying at a show or whatever. And I had worked in events before I was an attorney, mostly in nightclubs, but whatever, it's the same idea. So I valued that, right? Like someone walks in the first time or whatever, like you are a brand. Or is this something they want to interact with or not? So I always was like floored, like how many people are interested in this brand?
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, I'm glad you mentioned that because at Datadog and at my company now, events made up so much of the leads we were generating, so much of the revenue that we drove as a company. They have a huge impact on your organization if you do them right. So third-party trade shows are really helpful for that. In addition, though, we do... Sorry,
no. I was making the point that what you're saying, or what we're saying about the outside, I think is also true on the inside. Like, you go to a company event, this is telling me who we are. Do you know what I mean? Do they value me as a, employee here or worker? Is partly like, what am I getting back? And our events were kick ass all the time. No, it's true. It's that feeling valued.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This isn't like, oh, we're going to like TGI Fridays or whatever.
Yeah. We should talk about the Datadog company parties.
Unleash.
These events are still to this day, I think, some of the best events I've ever been to. And Kim was kind of the mastermind behind a lot of these.
Oh my God.
And I mean,
she's a team effort, truly.
Yes, but you definitely inspired me in my career to like step outside of my comfort zone and be more creative.
It was interesting working with like the three of you, Tony included, with like similar roles, but you guys all had different kind of like approaches and strengths to it.
We did, and I think it made us unstoppable.
Yeah,
for sure.
It's very dynamic.
Yeah.
Kim, tell us about the parties because they were really sick, and I won't steal your thunder on like the whole format, but what made them so special, I think, was that we made employees feel special. And we also working for a startup or a fast growth company like Datadog is hard. We invited like plus ones.
Yeah, we
did. So it made it really special. So
for sure.
Tell us about them.
So I'll go back a little here. So when I first started at Datadog, all I knew about Datadog was that there was a very cute puppy type logo and that it was in New York City. And I actually came from a completely different background. I used to plan weddings at the Ritz-Carlton, and
that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Checks out.
I laugh sometimes because I'm from the Bay Area. I joined a tech company by leaving the Bay Area. It's just,
you couldn't escape.
Yeah.
Wait, that's funny.
It is, right? I've never worked in tech in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Go figure. But I had this goal, and I can't remember where it came from, but I saw this photograph one time of this gorgeous, drop-dead gorgeous event at the Museum of Natural History. And it was in the very storied whale room, and they lit it up with like all of these different, these different lighting effects, and it made it look like there were stars on the dance floor. And I had it in my mind, I'm going to do an event there one day. I'm going to make it happen. I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Oh, cool. I love this.
But I'm going to do it. And I joined Datadog, and at that time, like Carolina said, we were at about 100 employees. So every holiday party, to her point, we would invite every single employee. We would fly them into New York City, and we would invite a plus one. Who does that? That's incredible. We also asked,
and that's what I'm saying. Like, it makes you feel valued, and this idea of like, it's not just this work version of me.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You're inviting my partner or whatever to meet these other people.
And it was so nice to meet everybody's other half, 100%. Whether that other half was a partner or whomever. Like, it was so nice to just have that window into somebody that you work with and see every day, so a window into their world, right? And at this place where worlds collide, like we would always try and build all these different activities for people to get to know each other. We used to try and do these little conversation starters by grouping people and like giving them little tags, because there's tags in our event management system in Datadog. And we always
the different color bracelet or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. We call them tags, but the point is,
everything had a dog theme.
Everything had a dog theme, or it had a Datadog platform theme. But as the company got larger, the company party grew and grew. We ended up naming the event series Unleash. Datadog
Iconic.
Unleashed. But eventually, we got big enough to the point where I thought to myself, oh my God, we could fill the Museum of Natural History. So
Dude,
I
remember seeing the contract come in, so it was interesting because I got to kind of know some things ahead of time.
Yes, you got insight into things before.
That one made me go crazy too. I've told other people, I think what was interesting about it is it's very hard to impress New Yorkers.
Yes.
Do you know what I'm saying? It's like the other one, cool. I've been to a wedding at the place the first one was at.
Yeah.
And the second one, actually.
Yeah.
The Museum of Natural History has that like iconic, like it's kind of funny because you're from the Bay Area, so I don't know that you've actually felt that way other than this dream of it. Growing up around here, it's like, dude, that's like a New York City landmark to me. That'd be like something at the top of the Empire State Building or something.
Exactly. That's how it felt.
Yeah, exactly. It was really cool. I agree. There's a few things that happen where you made it kind of or whatever, like as a company. Mm-hmm. That one felt like it for sure.
It did. And it came at a really crucial point in Datadog's expansion because I think that was the year right after we IPO'd that we did it that year. It was 2019. Mm-hmm. We had just IPO'd and we had this event that really kind of everything that we had been building towards that year, it culminated in the celebration and seeing Datadog logos up on the marble walls of the American Museum of Natural History with a purple carpet rolled down the front steps. It just felt awesome. It was like, I thought in that moment, I was like, oh my God.
Being at a museum at night and like when no one else is there is cool.
It felt really cool.
I feel like somehow you're still downplaying this.
You know what, though?
I don't know. I think people either connect with it or not.
Well, so one of the really cool things that we had at that event, so we had bought out the entire wing of the museum that had the whale room in it. And in part of the gallery, because all of the galleries were still open and we had all this awesome food, we had people carving oysters for people. Like, it was so cool. We had a 360 photo booth. We had a live band. This was the most grand event I had ever planned up till that point in my life. And I thought for a really long time that I had peaked and I had to wrestle with that. You know? But there was this really amazingly sentimental activation that we had put up. One of our teammates, Yo-Yo, had thought of this idea of doing a timeline of the founding moment up until where we were right after IPO, celebrating the end of 2019. And everybody was able to take photographs on Instax cameras and then add themselves to where they joined the timeline or like add moments and like make little subtitles and just write in like all of these different moments. And I remember watching one of our founders stand there and look at that timeline and I could just see it all replaying on his face and all the emotion that went into bringing us to that moment. I just thought, wow, what I do is really cool.
Yeah. Something else just hit me. A lot of times you don't get to enjoy it when it's happening because you're like making sure it's going off properly, right? Did you get to enjoy that event?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed that event.
Oh, good.
We're going to take a short break to hear from one of our sponsors, but when we come back, we're going to learn more about Cortex and how the company found Carolina. We will also discuss the benefits being a New Yorker plays into curating events.
This episode is brought to you by NextGen Law. NextGen Law supports today's modern tech companies, bringing expertise in drafting and negotiating customer contracts and scaling of go-to-market legal functions. For more information, visit nextgenlaw.com. That's NextGenLaw with hyphens in between each word, .com.
Okay, cool. All right. So Carolina, now we're going to find out a little bit more about you. So you talked about what Cortex does. Can we get a little more info on like how many people, where you guys are located, and maybe the ICP profile or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So starting with how big we are, I guess, Cortex, we recently raised our Series C, which is really exciting. We also celebrated, congrats. Thank you.
Yay.
100 employees. Over 100 employees now, but that was as of September. We are based globally, so Cortex is a fully remote company, which is a very nice benefit. Our founders are on the East Coast and West Coast. We have sellers in the US, and we just recently started a go-to-market team in London, which is really cool. Yeah. Did I answer all the questions? Sorry.
No, but one thing I did want to like point out is, so the show, right, Empire State of Grind, we're focused kind of on New York. The reason that I thought this is appropriate anyways, like the world is becoming more kind of remote first, yet a lot of key players are still finding themselves based in New York. You're here, you're also a native New Yorker, right? So like how do you view kind of like your location playing into your role or just what you do? Like, could you be doing this well from Kentucky?
Great question. So I think first, when you're traveling a lot for work, being in a major city is super helpful. Having JFK and LaGuardia in my backyard has been very beneficial for me, just having to be on the road so much. New York also is ideal just because it makes it easier to work with both Europe and, you know, like the West Coast of the US, where you do have to adapt when you're remote to those different time zones. Yeah, and then, I mean, working remotely, I still have the opportunity to get together with employees that are in New York. We have a large group here too, which is really nice.
I think something that you're not hitting on, but I think is really important and something you do extremely well is the benefit that being in New York City gives you, staying on the beaten culture of what is going on in the world. Not just in tech, but with what people are enjoying when they go out for a drink and then building that into your strategies. Like there's so much that I think you just absorb being here by osmosis that really elevates your plans.
Can you do it from Kentucky? Like, do you know what venues to go to? And
yeah.
But I think
you could because you've been here, right?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You started there. And sorry to pick on Kentucky.
They've got great fried chicken. No, I mean, I think you could, but I do think that there is something that elevates your taste.
Yeah.
Yeah. That really gives you an edge when it comes to building experiences. And what are you doing with events other than building experiences, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I know we were going to answer this later, like why New York, but I'm happy to dive in now. I think New York is so special for many reasons. One, the energy is just unparalleled.
The city is always humming.
Always humming. There's always someone doing something new. There's tons of people around just to inspire you. I feel like I learn something every time I leave my apartment, which is really special. To Kim's point, like the culture is so incredible. Having access to the world's best restaurants, best shopping, best activities is a major reason why I think like we do our job so well, I guess, is like we're just learning constantly.
I think so.
Yeah.
I didn't thought about it, but that makes a lot of sense. It's like, in some ways, you're the company's like tastemaker, and you gotta know what's going on.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, New York, just being as diverse as it is, also helps us learn about different cultures, like gain a deeper appreciation, understanding of different types of people, and really helps make our events probably more inclusive because we're constantly thinking about these things just every time we leave our homes. And yeah, the energy, the diversity, the culture, I love it.
One thing I wanted to ask you about that struck me, we were in a company where like the in-office culture was very strong, right? Yeah. How do you feel the differences now being somewhere where everyone isn't together when you came from somewhere where like that was a huge part of the company's culture?
You want me to answer that?
I want both of you, but...
You go for it first.
Yeah. So working for a fully remote company definitely has pros and cons. At Datadog, we were in the office full-time before COVID, and then after COVID, 3 days a week. And having that in-office experience is something that I did really appreciate. Having sweeping views of New York City to like walk into every day was super inspiring. Being able to, right?
I valued that so much, 100%. I would just stare out the window sometimes and be like, this is sick. And
even as like native New Yorkers, people that are local, it's still so just special. Never gets old.
I always had a theory that the people from New York value it more because you know what you're looking at.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
I mean, I consider myself a full New Yorker now.
I meant it like you live here.
Yeah. But I mean, even coming from another city in another state, that is, I wouldn't say equally because, like I said, I've converted full New Yorker.
That's right.
But has its own reputation for being a cultural hub, San Francisco.
Just kidding.
There's just something special about looking out your window and seeing the Empire State Building. It's just there for you.
Right.
And I do think that, especially when we were early on in our careers, being in the office every day, it just connected you with so many different people.
That's really the part I am asking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's people that I met around the lunch table
exactly.
that I would have never spoken to just based on the business that I was doing. You know, we made friends with people on the developer team that actually ended up being really good friends outside of work that we never, ever, ever had a single work meeting about.
For sure.
With,
I actually credit a lot of like my whatever personal growth or success in the role, I guess I would say, on the availability of others. Because what you were saying before, like we were discussing before about getting to understand the product and the company and stuff.
Yeah.
I needed access to people who knew more than me. And that access was in the office. It wasn't like, it's just different now. It wasn't scheduling a meeting. It was seeing you at lunch or being able to stop by your desk or whatever. It's different for me now because I'm not at a company. I'm providing a service from the outside. Very different, right? Because people are mindful of my time because I'm billing them for it. So some of it is, it can be confusing because some of this is like, I need some upfront, it'll be an upfront cost for down the road value. You know what I mean? Where I feel like previously it was just offered. But I'm curious, like at a remote company, like how do you, I don't know, bridge that gap to like be close with your coworkers when you're not close physically.
Yeah.
In the world today, which is another thing I don't understand.
So it was a huge adjustment, to be honest. But being in the roles that we're in, the nice benefit is, one, I go to conferences all the time. So I'm constantly with people bonding for several days at a time. And it's something that I've learned not to take for granted anymore. I think coming into an office regularly made me maybe not appreciate it as much, where now I have these moments on the road where I know how special it is and like how rare it is for so many other people at my company to get to experience that. So the conferences and stuff definitely help, but I think also just going back to the events that we plan, like our all company offsites, just being able to get everyone together for 3 days, make the most of it, you know, have fun, collaborate, learn about each other, definitely has strengthened my relationships.
Do you feel like you're more mindful of making space for that at the events because knowing it's like not provided naturally?
Definitely.
Yeah. So you're still at a big office, right?
I am. It's a very big office. It's fishy.
Yeah, it's still really nice.
It is. It is.
That was like so funny story. I took my aunt visited. Well, she's, I guess, my cousin, whatever. Italian, everyone's like your aunt if they're a certain age older than you. And I remember taking her there and like, she didn't know what we did or anything, but just the office. She was like, oh, I'm at a real tech company. This is awesome.
It is. It's funny that you say that actually, because it happens quite a lot. You'll be having lunch and somebody will roll up and be like, hey, this is my mom. I love it. And it truly is so special. I mean, when people visit from out of town, they want to show them where they work because they're proud of it. And it almost is a nice little tourist attraction because, like I said, the view of the Empire State from our building is just as good as it is
100%.
for any high-rise you pay for to look at the Empire State Building. So I do think that there's quite a lot of there's a lot of pride in where we work, I think, at Datadog. I do think that
do you find like in today's, I don't know, settings, like is that cultural element still there, or is it? I mean, the company's so much bigger, so you can't know everybody.
You can't know everyone, no. And I stopped trying to do that, like, yesterday. I'm just kidding. I stopped doing it. But it is on the immediate teams that I work with. Cool. I will say that, and I think that people have done a really good job at Datadog of really taking advantage of the hybrid work policy, in that you still get that benefit, and we try and coordinate with each other. Like, when are we all coming into the office? Because we all want to be there.
Yeah.
Like if someone's going to be there, we want
additional value of being there. 100%.
Yeah, we want to be there together. But it does allow flexibility for people who might have young families or who might just have a little bit more productivity happening at home. And, it's a nice balance to have.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
It strikes me as like the world is different, pre and post pandemic with regard to this, right? We used to, if I said I was in the office 8 hours a day, I'd be lying. I was in the office 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I knew everyone there at some point because I'm outgoing, and I was the only lawyer. So you probably had to interact with me at some point, for better or worse.
Yeah.
And it just, honestly, it's part of like, I don't want to say it's why I'm doing what I'm doing now, but I don't feel like I'm missing it because I feel like I'm not so sure that exists at these other places. It is interesting though. I work with small startups mostly, so I do visit their offices, and some of them are very mindful of this and have try to cultivate a culture like that. And then others are like remote first, and I'm talking with someone here and then someone there. So you just see like more variety than, what I think was more, I don't think our culture was normal. I think it was surpassing that, but like the ideal was to do it together in person. Okay, cool. So what about some like recent events have you done, or maybe the first event you planned at Cortex? Like, give us an idea of maybe not the day to day so much, but like what have you been doing?
Yeah,
we've gotten almost too nostalgic.
Yeah, so the events have definitely evolved since I joined. Ironically, the first event that I planned was sponsoring Datadog's conference Dash.
Which you planned at Datadog originally.
Yeah, which you helped me with a ton of contract negotiations for, I'm sure.
Yes.
So it was really special just to see this event that started in 2018 really evolve to where it is today, and to bring our startup there to get to experience the other side of it that I never got to see was really cool.
Yeah.
Like the quality of attendees, just the quality of the event overall was just really impactful for our business, honestly. And it's one of our largest like revenue driving events.
And like I mentioned, I was there this year.
Yeah.
So it hit me too. I'm like, oh, this is the contracts I was working on all those times. Here's like a good aspect of like a good problem to have, or like success begetting just more things to solve. The first Dash conference, you guys had too many people show up.
Oh,
remember
God.
that?
Yes.
So I remember the night of it, I'm working with Alex, the then CMO, about getting new space for an event tomorrow for extra attendees because too many people showed up. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Good problem to have.
Yeah, 100%.
We underestimated
talk about doing your
ourselves,
job
yeah.
well.
Yeah.
It's like too many people are interested in this.
You did
Came
your
to New
job
York
too
for it. And now it's at the Javits Center, right?
Right.
Really cool.
Yeah. So that was my first event, was sponsoring Dash.
So your very first event in Cortex?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Which was really funny. So before I joined, they actually, as I mentioned, were doing events. They had sponsored other events before without success, which is why they decided they needed to hire someone. So that was
how did
my
you
first
find
one.
the role? Like, how did this start?
I found Cortex. It was actually kind of random. So I was ready for a new challenge. I was at Datadog for 6 years, loving it because it's an incredible company, and like
I
felt like I was growing and I was doing really well, but wanted something new. So I was at a wedding, and the groom had just joined this startup, Cortex, and he approaches me and he's like, "You need to meet my founders. We like don't have any open role, but I want you to explain to them what you do, and then you should work here." So I was like, okay.
Very cool.
Within a week after his wedding, he set up a call with me and the founders. We chatted. I walked them through what an event strategy could look like. And within a month, they moved to an offer and I joined. Yeah.
I have never
cool
heard this
story.
story before.
Yeah.
This sounds like a movie.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And it speaks a lot to like what I've been feeling a lot of gratitude for lately, which is like, you don't get that introduction if this person doesn't respect what you do and know you're really good at it. And that feels really good when like you see the world look at you that way, right?
Yeah.
Did you feel that way, or?
Yeah, it was it definitely felt really nice to be appreciated and like recognized by someone that I respected, who I think has had an incredible career trajectory. Also, he was at Datadog, had gone to PagerDuty also pretty early on. So seeing that he's made like really
This is
good,
the founder or
no,
the
my
connection?
Friend that connected me with the
This
founders.
is Mike?
Yeah,
it
Mike
was Mike,
Cannell.
right? Yeah,
Shout
yeah.
out to Mike Cannell.
We shout out people on here. That's
Oh
cool.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Shout out to him.
Is he still there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So he was the first, I think, AE at the company.
That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
He knows how we got leads at Datadog. And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
isn't going to work otherwise.
Exactly.
He's a good dude.
He is good.
We are taking a short break, and when we come back, we'll learn about Carolina's background and how an internship led her down the path to event marketing. We'll also talk about how having an entrepreneurial spirit is key to success in any role at a startup.
So I kind of want to learn a little about like your background, how you kind of got into this, right? So I know a little bit, but why don't you tell the audience, like, where'd you grow up? I don't even want to say how'd you get into tech, but how'd you get into events? And then how did you get into tech from events?
Yeah. I grew up in Queens, in New York, still in Queens girl for life. And the way I got into events was I was in college, had a marketing major. It was finally time. Like I had been procrastinating my entire college career to get an internship. Finally started applying to internships, and I landed an event marketing internship at the New York Stock Exchange. Honestly, like so cool at the time. It was the last thing I expected, but because an alumni had gone there, started this internship program. But that was definitely the launch pad to my career. I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, like I don't think I started this marketing degree like knowing that I wanted to do events.
For sure. I have a marketing degree.
I did not
what?
know that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Fun
That's my
fact.
undergrad degree.
So I didn't know I wanted to do events, but I had this opportunity and I really enjoyed it. I got to learn so much.
And where were you in school, did you say?
Oh, I was at Hofstra.
Okay.
Yeah, so studied at Hofstra, was interning.
Really branched out.
Yeah, I mean, so far, right? But was interning the majority of the week and like taking classes maybe 2 days a week at that point. And it just brought me so much joy to get this like hands-on real world experience. So anyway, started there, ended up staying there for quite a few years.
So you worked there after college?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, dabbled in media relations, realized like there are other parts of marketing out there, but it wasn't really for me. My heart was still like in events. Continued doing events there and then ended up at Datadog kind of randomly. Like Kim, I was looking for jobs on Indeed, found the opportunity, got on a call with Marissa, had an interview with Jessica, and felt so inspired and motivated just by like her energy, all of her knowledge.
Yeah, she is a force.
Yeah. And there's so much. Well, anyway, I was between offers. So I had two choices at that time. It was either I go to Datadog, make like $10,000 less than this other opportunity in finance. I think it was like for Barclays or something. But so much of like just the idea of learning from Jess and being really hands-on at this startup and making an impact. And also like as an early 20-year-old, like being able to travel just seemed so cool. An opportunity I wouldn't get with other jobs.
Right.
Is what really drew me in. Did I know that the company would be as successful as it is? I had no idea.
Of course not.
It was definitely like Jess's leadership, getting to travel. Free snacks didn't hurt.
Oh, the free snacks are great.
Yeah.
I actually think that there's something that Carolina is underselling about herself. And I think some of the conversations that she and I had as she was trying to make that decision about, whether to continue growing with Datadog, because I am absolutely certain that had she stayed, she would be doing amazing things still. But Carolina has an incredibly entrepreneurial spirit.
For sure.
Wow.
You
Thank
do.
No, it's true.
I mean, we didn't talk about it very much. It kind of glazed over it, but Dash was her baby. And for the listeners that don't know what Dash is, it's actually, it's Datadog's user conference. And Carolina was part of the team she led the team that created the very first one. And that's incredibly difficult to do.
I do agree. I was always in awe of how you guys were doing new shit all the time.
And you know, there's so many different moving parts to doing a user conference, and it really does take the whole village to make it happen. But that entrepreneurial spirit really carried her into this role, because when you are the first event marketing, or even the first marketer, or the first marketing ops person, or the first lawyer at a small startup, you're on your own. You can't turn to your neighbor and ask, hey, what do you think about this idea? Is this going to take us to the next level, or is this just going to sink the ship? You know, there's a lot of pressure on you to perform.
It's scary.
It is scary, and it is quite a big risk to go out on your own like that. And Carolina did it at a very important juncture in Datadog's growth, because it was at the point where, okay, we're going to become this really large company. The problem is going to change, right? We know what we're doing now. Our problem is trying to scale it and improve it every single year.
I think you're bringing up something I find like fascinating. Maybe not fascinating, it's not the right word, but it's almost obvious as you meet people and in these like different growth situations, because I feel like you're talking about her, but you're also talking about me.
Yeah, I am.
Because there are just different personalities, and especially early on, it is a lot of people with an entrepreneurial spirit, because the job is not, it's like, who cares what the job description says? It's getting shit done.
Yep.
It is.
Are you comfortable just figuring shit out and getting shit done? And if you are, then it's not surprising when someone goes out kind of like on their own or takes on a new challenge or whatever.
Right.
And what I realized, I knew I had that. I had run businesses before I was a lawyer, so nothing big, but like you just know that makeup, right? So you know if you have it or you don't. But I remember joining early and being like, it's so weird too. Like you were saying about the whale room, like being a thing in your mind, and it's so cool when like things manifest and you know. One for me now, shout out Brad at Superblocks, right? Brad was a PM, and he was the first person where I went, this guy's going to start his own company one day. I wonder if I would work with him. And now we do. And it's just like, oh, that's freaking cool. Yeah. But you realize early on, everyone here has that kind of spirit, right? Like for the most part, as the company grows, I think there's like an inflection point where it's not fair to think I'm going to get that like itch scratched at a 5,000 person company.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like you do what you've been doing, or like a repeatable process or whatever. It's not figuring shit out. Don't break this stuff. We've figured out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So then it's like, where do you fit in? Do you want to go back and build? Do you want to build something totally new? Or are you comfortable in, like, are you changing with the company? And for me, what was cool, we hired one of my good friends, and I saw how it was such a better fit for him at this stage than it was for me. And what was crazy to me was he saw it super quick. Like I was nervous to tell him I was leaving, because I was like, you know, you joined a company, I work here, and now I'm like a couple months later, hey man, I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
Whatever, it was a great job for it. Honestly, it was a perfect fit, but it feels like, am I abandoning him? And he was like, oh yeah, man, you're not a big company guy. And I was like, you saw that already? But like that, there's just different people that it makes sense. You join this small. I had a conversation with the head of engineering at one time about this. Like, or one of the challenges is we have to hire a different type of person in the PM role. We can't hire these entrepreneurial types. We need more, I use the term like soldiers.
Yeah.
You want people that will not be creative.
You need people who are really good at process at a certain point.
Yeah, and knowing who you are and like what do I want is very important when you're at these places, because they change and you may not, right? The goal was, I tell people all the time now, my goal was to make myself obsolete. And when I did it, I kind of stopped enjoying being here. You know what I mean? Like I could do the job, but you don't need me to do the job.
Yeah.
You could have anyone, not any, you know what I'm saying? I didn't feel special doing it. Or now it's like one of one, like you're saying, at these companies, that responsibility is scary at times, but it's also like that's the trade-off, right? This is the fun
trade-off.
part.
Not for everyone, I'll say. Joining a startup and like being so vulnerable and responsible for these huge numbers, and all eyes are on you really to make this program successful. And Kim, I really appreciate you saying that I have an entrepreneurial spirit, because I think you have one also, and that's why I really respect and admire you. We actually have these core values at Cortex, and the two that resonate with me the most, I was actually recently asked this as well, is bias to action and write the rules.
Bias to action.
Yes.
Explain that one.
So bias to action, what it means to me is I internalize that as being given something very abstract of a goal. I want to have an event next week for 50 people, and being able to take that and really ideate it and like execute it and make it super successful. So that's the way I look at it, is not being given the playbook, writing the playbook on your own.
Oh, I get it.
And deciding like, how am I going to make this happen?
Bias to action meaning do something.
Do something. Get shit done.
Yeah.
I like
Like
that.
you said.
The kind way of saying it.
Yeah. But I love
Honestly.
it. Like operating with urgency.
Yeah.
And a desire to win.
Oh, yeah, that's the startup mentality. Like,
100%. I do think that's what made so much of the early days feel like again, we were unstoppable because everybody had that bias to action.
You couldn't stop us physically.
no, it's a weird thing because you don't want to turn it off, but you do need to like manage its effect on you. You know what I'm saying?
You do. And honestly, going back to what you said about our very first dash, we really underestimated ourselves. And I will say that we had a lot of imposter syndrome at that stage in our careers at Datadog. And we really weren't sure that we were going to be able to get, what was it? Our goal was probably like 600 people to the first conference. I think 800 people showed up.
And to your
or like
point,
1,000.
it's like, I
Crazy.
feel, this is, I think, the difference of the makeup, right? Is like, some people would be annoyed that you guys screwed up, didn't get the right place the first time, and now I am expected to work after hours on a Wednesday to help fix this problem. I was like, that's sick. You got too many people to show up. Like,
Yeah.
basically, you know, my job's very easy at that point because it's like, just make sure there's nothing crazy in this. We're not going to negotiate. It's 7:30 at night and you need the venue at 8 in the morning.
And I appreciate you like knowing that.
Yeah,
There's a
that's-
time and a place for everything, and that is not the time or the place.
I learned
Negotiate.
that was, a lot of that was from Brian. Like how I said that first contract I overdid, he definitely made it clear and comfortable to like, hey man, use your judgment and worry about the stuff that matters. We don't have time around here to worry about stuff that doesn't matter.
Right. What's the business
and
impact?
to be honest, that understanding, I think, is like what makes me able to connect with like people that I support but aren't lawyers very well.
We're taking a short break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about one of our favorite parts of this city and a few other aspects of why we call NYC home.
Something that I actually think is, I don't know if it qualifies to meet your criteria for this answer because it is a little bit about the energy of the people, but I love walking everywhere. And I will tell you 100%, not every city is like that.
No.
And I do think that there is something exceptional about being forced to live within a mile radius of where you live and intimately know your bodega, intimately know the park where you take your dog every day. And you meet communities here that I didn't experience, and I've lived many places in the United States, anywhere else.
No, that's a great answer.
And look, I live near a dog park. It's not a dog park, actually. I live near Fort Greene in Brooklyn. I have a dog, and I go to off-leash hours in the morning. I've met some of my best friends just because we all go there, and our dogs all hang out together, and we're still not sure to this day if we're friends because our dogs are friends or if our dogs are friends because we're friends. We say now that it's both, but I don't know if it was the chicken or the egg. But
Yeah,
the point
who
is
knows?
we wouldn't have met each other if, one, this wasn't a walking city.
No, I do.
Yeah.
I totally feel you.
And two, like we see each other at the grocery store. Like you see these people because they live in your space. Like everyone is so compact, but you have to.
Yeah, you're passing by all the time.
Right. But you have to. You can't not be a part of the community in New York. I mean, you have to do a lot. You have to put in a lot of effort to
at
not
the same side,
be
you
a
kind
part
of
of
don't
the
pay
community.
attention to what other people are doing.
Yeah, but there's a certain beauty about that. Like you can stay in your lane, or you can choose to, you can choose to see what's going on.
No, for sure. The people is always kind of the root of any answer. But I like what you're saying. The walking part, it's crazy. It's like anytime I think of moving to the suburbs, I freak out.
I do not want to get in a car every time I have to. I mean,
I like driving. I have a nice car. Don't get me like.
Yeah, but you want to joyride. You don't want to have to go drive because you want a soda.
Yeah.
100%. Also, I like walking around aimlessly.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll run
I love
into
the architecture
someone.
of the city. I love the food scene. The food scene here is unmatched.
For sure. Yeah, and you guys travel for a living.
I do.
So you got
Yes.
a really interesting
I'm constantly
perspective.
comparing.
What do you feel like when you come back, like you're excited for?
Ooh, good question.
The food.
I mean,
I hate to be cliche, but
That's pretty cliche, but I don't disagree.
I don't necessarily think that New York has necessarily the best in every category.
But it's available.
That is the point. I can eat anywhere in the world right here.
Yeah, fair.
I think the hospitality too, to a certain extent. I mean, depending on where you go is definitely a lot better here.
Look, if I'm going to a dim sum restaurant, I don't want to be treated well at all. If I'm treated well at a dim sum restaurant, no, it's because, if they're treating me well, it's because there's something wrong with your food, because your food should be speaking for itself. Like, don't even look at me. I'll just eat my dim sum in peace. But, no, I do think that there is something special about the food scene in New York City that a lot of people come back to and travel for. Other people who live in other cities come here just for the food.
The other thing you're saying about walking, what I think is cool is how your day can be filled with so many different things. Today is a perfect example for me, and I'm sure for you guys too, because this isn't normal or average day for you, is like, today I woke up in Jersey City, did some work and worked out, came to the city, saw the new office space I got with Albert and his company, because I share office space with them. Shout out Bearworks. And then walk over, and all this is walking or on a train, then walk over here to do a podcast, and I'm going to walk to meet up with my dad to see a band. And none of it, you can do that all in 6 hours.
Yeah.
The accessibility.
And they're all world-class, our offices are getting there.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. I mean, the view's cool. We're in Herald Square. It's definitely an upgrade. We have a roof deck with a view of the Empire State Building.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, not Datadog's view, but it's there.
That sounds like our old office.
Yeah. Same one?
It's not. Well, I'm sure Albert would have known that. But no, it's just cool, like the varied experiences you can have in a short period of time.
Yeah.
I think there's other places that provide all that, but your days can just be filled with the shit that normally is a good month.
The accessibility, just literally being able to take up any hobby you pretty much want, even out doing stuff in the outdoors, mountains, beach, it's all right here.
Yeah, true.
1 or 2 hours away, but
All right.
yeah.
Well, Kim, Carolina, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
yeah, of course.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Empire State of Grind. If you like what you heard, please share, like, and subscribe. You can find more information about the guests and sponsors in the show notes, and special thanks to our sponsors and our producer, Brian Neiman. We'll be back with new episodes twice a month, and as we say in New York, peace, we out.